Liverpool win, but Mane frustrated. Barcelona plan alternative Haaland list. Atletico could move for Keita, a transfer roundup, and today's Friday Feels all coming up in the next few minutes. As I'm your host, Matt Froelich, you are the OneFootballers, and this is the Daily News. So first up, and yes, Liverpool won last night in an astonishing 4-2 victory against Manchester United at Old Trafford. It was Jurgen Klopp's first victory at Old Trafford with Liverpool, and he was absolutely delighted, but Sadio Mane wasn't quite so happy. The Senegalese forward was left on the bench and came on with 16 minutes to go, and at the full-time whistle, as Klopp was clearly delighted along with the rest of his team, Mane snubbed his celebration. Now, of course, you're probably thinking, Matt, you're thinking way too much into this. Mane is just pretty pissed off, and yeah, I'd actually tend to agree. He threw his tape down the side of the pitch and then stormed off into the tunnel. But having said all of this, he's a top player. He's a top professional and he wants to play every game, including the big ones away at your biggest rivals. Potentially your biggest rivals. The whole Liverpool-Man City debate is another thing altogether. As for what it means for Sadio Mane's role within the squad, or maybe his future at the club, I wouldn't look too much further into that either. Let's talk about what happened on the pitch, and it's clear that Manchester United, I'm going to say it, struggled without Harry Maguire. If I'd have said that like a year ago, you would have thought I was ridiculous. But now, with the England international missing for the rest of the season, it's been 2 defeats in 2 games in the space of 3 days at home for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's men. That's what it means for the table. Yes, them losing on Tuesday meant that Manchester City won the title, but that was really a given beforehand anyway. And it doesn't look like they're going to be caught by Leicester with just 2 games to go and being 4 points ahead. But it's not the strongest end of the season for Manchester United. If anything, it plays into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's hands because he can turn around to the board in the summer and say, look what happens when we lose just one player. We completely fall apart, especially in defence, so maybe he's got more of a bargaining chip when it comes to discussing those summer transfers. As for Liverpool in the match, they got over the early setback of conceding an own goal and then not having a penalty go their way to hit back, and they were in fine form. And as for Mo Salah, who rounded off the victory, it now moves him level with Harry Kane in an interesting race for the Golden Boot in the Premier League, with both strikers on 21 goals. Anyway, talking of Manchester United's transfer rumours like before, one player they are certainly linked with and have been for the last 12 months or so is Jadon Sancho, and last night he was on fine form and showing exactly why United and a few other teams are so interested in him. 2 goals and an assist as Dortmund smashed Leipzig 4-1 in the German Cup final. It now means they've won the DFB Pokal 5 times, and it robbed Julian Nagelsmann of picking up a trophy with RB Leipzig before moving to Bayern Munich in the summer. The other man who scored the other 2 goals apart from Sancho, Erling Haaland. Because of course he did. You can't have a goal fest for Dortmund without Haaland getting on the score sheet. Both of them proving why they are so hotly tipped for massive transfers, if not this summer, but within the next few years, because they're both unbelievable. Elsewhere, last night's football, and Real Madrid kept the La Liga title race going for 1 or potentially 2 more rounds with a stunning 4-1 victory away at Granada. Moving on then, and actually talking of potential transfers this summer, and Barcelona are one of those teams who are linked with Erling Haaland, but apparently the club have admitted, rather sensibly, that it's going to cost a lot of money to sign Haaland, and they perhaps don't have the finances to do it. So they have drawn up a replacement list should they not be managing to tempt the Norwegian to join the club, or paying the big bucks. The first on this list is another player with some rather large size about him, and that is Alexander Isak from Real Sociedad. At 6'4", he is a mean, lean machine and a great goal-scoring threat. Something different to what Barcelona have got in the squad currently. When you look at the strikers with the likes of certainly Antoine Griezmann and Lionel Messi as well, they're smaller, more dynamic, fluid players. But with Isak, a big target man as well as a good finisher, he could actually be quite a good signing. Elsewhere, they could go for Darwin Núñez from Benfica, who is a little bit more fluid and more typical of a Barcelona player and has bagged 14 goals this season for Benfica. The problem is they signed him last summer for around 20 million euros, so if they're going to let him go 1 year later, still with a few years left on his contract, they're probably going to want a bit more money than the 20 million they paid. I'm not sure they'll be able to hold out for anything more than 30, but that's still a pretty good profit within the space of 12 months. And lastly, the other player reportedly on this list is Gerard Moreno, because why not? He's been one of the best strikers in Spain's La Liga this season. He's been fantastic for Villarreal. He scored a hatful of goals, but at 29 years old, he doesn't necessarily fit the profile of a good signing for Barcelona's future. Yes, he'd be good now, but his sell-on value would be absolutely nothing. And considering how good he's done and that he's playing in another top team in La Liga in Villarreal, he's probably going to cost a ridiculous amount of money for someone, like I said, who, if he's worth it, great, he's worth it for a few years, but he's not really going to have any sell-on value, which considering the Barcelona need to raise a bit of money and think about this when they're signing players, the 29-year-old may not fit the bill in that way. There is one more person linked with Barcelona, but not necessarily on this alternative striker list to Haaland, and that is Memphis Depay. Of course, he's going to cost absolutely nothing when his Lyon contract runs out in the summer, and apparently he has one stipulation as to whether or not he will sign on the dotted line. He wants to make sure that Ronald Koeman will be his manager. They had a good spell together in the Dutch national team. It looks like Depay is really eager for his fellow countrymen to be in charge next season. Moving on then, and to Atletico Madrid, who are potentially in for one of Liverpool's players in Naby Keita. He hasn't really worked out for him at Anfield. I know there's been so many injuries, but it seems he doesn't quite fit into the system. And on top of this, it's just what happens when you're part of a very, very good squad, one of the best in Europe, is that there are so many players ahead of him. Jurgen Klopp says, to be honest, that he actually doesn't really have a massive excuse as to why Keita's not in the team. It's just that there are so many good players ahead of him. There's the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, Thiago, Wijnaldum, Milner, Fabinho, Henderson. He's got so much competition, and maybe it was something that he didn't quite think about 3 years ago when he signed for the club. Of course, when he was at RB Leipzig, he was absolutely fantastic, and he scored more goals, in fact, for them in his last season than he has managed in 3 seasons at Liverpool. Of course, goal scoring isn't the major part of his game, but it's just quite a good stat to show you that he's not really getting in the right areas or even contributing in the goal scoring area to the team, which he was doing at Leipzig. Again, Liverpool seem to have every sort of position covered in that midfield, and they've even got cover for the cover. When it comes to being the defensive midfielder, I'm not quite sure Naby Keita is. They've got Fabinho. When it comes to being the box-to-box, they've got Jordan Henderson. The passer, they've got Thiago. The player who gets forward and probably scores and contributes a little bit more in the attacking areas, they've got Wijnaldum. They've also got Curtis Jones coming through as well. There's so many players that it's going to be difficult for Keita to get into the first team. So Atletico Madrid can take him. They've got Lucas Torreira on loan, but he's heading back to Arsenal. And there are reports that Marcus Llorente could be leaving the club, but I don't think that one's going to happen. Either way, if Diego Simeone is serious about taking Keita in, it's probably because he's got a plan for him and he's more likely to get a few more minutes at the potential La Liga winners. Moving on then to some transfer news and the rest of the news that you might have missed from the last 24 hours. And Leeds are preparing a new contract for manager Marcelo Bielsa. After agreeing to leave Southampton at the end of the season, Leicester City are interested in signing Ryan Bertrand. Cristiano Ronaldo's mother has said that she wants her son to return to Sporting, his first professional club. And lastly but not least, this is a bizarre transfer story which could unfold in the next weeks and months over the transfer window. So Ajax star Brian Brobby agreed to join RB Leipzig back in March, but one of the reasons that he agreed to join and with such a heartfelt decision to leave Ajax was because he wanted to work under Julian Nagelsmann. Of course, since then, the manager has now agreed to leave Bayern Munich, and so much has been made of the decision that apparently Brobby wouldn't be against returning to Ajax. Erik ten Hag has said that he has spoken to Mark Overmars at the club about talking to Leipzig and potentially bringing him back to the club, because this was such a big reason as to why he decided to leave in the first place. So keep your eyes peeled for this unfolding transfer story. Finally then, we come to this week's Friday Feels, where you guys leave your predictions for the weekend's football in the comment section down below. First off, we got the FA Cup final this weekend after a stunning German Cup final last night. I'm not sure we'll see as many goals, but it'll still be a pretty good game. I'm going for a 2-1 victory for Chelsea over Leicester. Elsewhere, and I think this will be the weekend that sees Atletico Madrid win the La Liga title. They're at home to Osasuna, which I think they'll pick up 3 points, and Real Madrid travel to Athletic Bilbao, and I think they'll only manage a draw, meaning that after 37 games played and with 1 to go, Atletico Madrid will be 4 points clear and crowned La Liga champions. And lastly but not least, there's a rather interesting 3-way battle going on in the Turkish Super League. Besiktas are top, Galatasaray are second, they're on the same points, and Fenerbahce are just 2 points behind with the last game of the season this weekend. 3 potential title winners, and I'm going to go for the winners to be Galatasaray, one of those on level points with leaders Besiktas. There you have it then, that's all from me for today. Make sure you let me know your Friday feels down below. Check out everything else we've got going on, and until next time, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys later.